You are listening to the Enormocast.
So let's say you've taken the advice you've heard on the Enormocast and played it ice climbing cool with that special climbing friend, going on trip after trip like your family, even though you've had the hots for him or her since they burned you off your proj and flips in a ratty pair of Yojimbos from the Lost and Found. Well, if the perfect belay isn't conveying your longing, perhaps the climbing-inspired jewelry and accessories of Peter Gilroy will help you put the punctuation on that date that's not a date, might be a date, climbing date. At peterwgilroy.com, you'll find jewelry, money clips, belt buckles, hats, and more, all inspired by the rock in the mountains on which your love has flourished. So please, before you resort to the lean-in or the forgotten sleeping bag or the embarrassing confessional after a 12-pack around the campfire, try a classier approach with a spectacular gift from peterwgilroy.com. And if you crash and burn, know that Peter and Enormocast still appreciate your support, even if your partner does short rope you to the curb. And remember, enter Enormo at checkout for a discount. But keep that part to yourself.
We gotta get
Listen, where are you playing in town? Are you playing here?
We're doing the Enormo Dome, whatever it is. It's terrific.
Oh,
it's
yeah, the
big
big
house.
place,
sold
that
it
side
out.
of town. That's a
Very
big
nice.
place. You sold it out.
20,000
seats.
We really should.
The hell are you doing? I couldn't sleep. I'm checking the ropes. There was a frayed end on your rope, and I'm cutting it out.
Good weather, bad weather. Now or later, anytime is a good time.
Today's show is brought to you by Black Diamond Equipment, with support from Maxim Ropes.
And the fine folks at La Sportiva. And don't forget our charter sponsor, Bonfire Coffee. Go to bonfirecoffee.com and enter Enormo at checkout for a discount on great coffee and to support the Enormocast.
And now back to the show.
Hello and welcome to the Enormocast. This is your host, Chris Kalous. It is January 2nd, about 9:30 here in the Colorado mountains. Yes, it's 2017, second day of 2017. It's sure to be a great year. But many people have been talking about how bad 2016 was. And sure, some shit went down that I'm not so happy about. But you know what? The Enormo baby was born in 2016. So if you keep harping about how bad 2016 was, I will come to your house and I will fight you. All right? Today's show is a little different, a little special thing happening here on today's show, which I'll get to in just a second. I want to really quickly remind you, I mentioned on the last show, but I'm going to be headed up to the Cody Ice Festival up there in Cody, Wyoming on the 10th through the 12th of February, and going to be presenting up there, hanging around, climbing some ice. So if you're interested in that sort of thing and you live striking distance from Cody, Wyoming, check it out. CodyIcefest.com is where the information is. And I have top roped some ice in the last couple of years. So this is not exactly like a totally unheard of experience anymore. But of course the weather was so good in Ouray that we were drinking Razoritas while climbing ice. So this may be a true test. We'll see what happens up there in Cody, but come check it out. Today's episode is a little bit unprecedented. Well, actually, it's very unprecedented. What we have today is an interview that Kris O-Dub Hampton did with Miguel Ventura and Dario, his son. That's Miguel of Miguels Pizza in the red. And this will be the first time there's ever been a guest host on the Enormocast in 5 years. Why did I do this? Well, Kris got in touch with me, and though he posted this already on his podcast, the Power Company Podcast, at powercompanyclimbing.com, his website, he thought it was very Enormocast-ish compared to the stuff he puts out over at that podcast, which is generally more about training, nutrition, things like that go along with his training programs that he has over at his website. And so he thought maybe I should simulcast it, if you will, put it out as an Enormocast. And of course, I'm lazy. I'll take it. But then when I listen to it, yeah, he does a great job. And I will always take an opportunity to hitch my wagon to this guy because he's a creative force to be reckoned with. So little bit of a crossover thing. Hopefully we'll pick up some new listeners for him. But if you did hear it over there already because you listened to both, well, I do apologize, and you'll have to wait for the next one. But yeah, the cool thing is that Kris and I have grown to be friends actually since he was on the Enormocast quite a few years ago now. We had only met just then, and since then we've climbed together, hung out, and some people out there accuse us of being the same person. Similar first names, in a certain light, we kind of look like one another. We're climbers of a certain age, and have actually kind of a similar background, having both started as tradsters and become much more all-around. Although in the end, Kris could crush me in his grip like paper mache. Okay, let's get to it. An interview by Kris Hampton of Miguel and Dario Ventura.
You don't need a costume to be a person. You just need to be yourself. Yeah, so I threw that outfit out and I became who I am today. A pizza man.
Power. This time to build power. This time to build.
Stress level.
I think the tourism is definitely they're coming out more and more. So yeah, the volume was way bigger. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, I did see a lot more tourists here this year. That was kind of surprising, but it's good because they're here mostly during the day, and then they're out of here by the time the climbers are in.
Yeah,
or the climbers run them out, one of the two.
Yeah, well, that's like right now. It kind of feels like the old days when you fed the climbers in the morning and then they would come in at night. During the day, you just kind of laid out in the sun for a couple of hours.
Yeah, totally. So, I think it's kind of fitting that we're sitting down here in the gear store right now, because this is kind of a new addition, and you've done such an amazing job of growing this thing from its small beginnings into this, world-known mecca that it's become. So,
well, I mean, let's get it straight. I haven't done anything like that. I mean, I was available for you guys. So the way I've always looked at it is that, I was here and you guys showed up, and I kind of made a place for you guys to hang out.
Yeah.
But I have nothing to do with it besides providing a space. I think the guys that Martin and Porter and all those guys that were had the vision of developing the climbing.
Sure.
Those are. I mean, I just provided a space, and I enjoyed it. It was good. It's good.
Yeah, and I think I think you're being a little too humble in that respect because, frankly, this could have just been another backwoods, middle of nowhere climbing area. But you've provided this spot for all these people to congregate and have a base. And, everywhere I go climbing, there are Miguel's T-shirts and Miguel's stickers. And everybody's been here and knows this place. So let's rewind all the way back. Do it.
Talking about that, it's like when I was hanging out at the pizza shop and Dario was in diapers behind the counter,
Yeah.
And Martin showed up, and they started hanging out. Martin Hackleworth, I don't know if you remember him.
Yeah, totally.
And he would show up with some of his friends with their tights and have ice cream. And they would come, a few times. After a few weekends, he approached me and said, listen, we really like the spirit of this place. And would you want to open up, we could teach you how to rock climb and you could sell the gear for us.
Yeah.
But that's what really started that. It's like they saw the spirit of the place. That's what anything is successful. It's about the spirit of the place.
Totally.
So that's what started it.
Yep.
And but Martin had the awareness of that.
Yeah, he
so
helped
I give him some
integrate
credit, because he had the spirit of saying, "Yeah, this place is cool. They're cool people. Let's do something here."
Yeah.
Because I didn't even know what climbing was before then. I mean, I was totally naive of it.
Yeah, and you're right. That's super important, and I think that spirit kind of started way back in the beginning because you were an artist early on. Like you came to the U.S. from Portugal in when you were 6? Is that
7,
right?
yeah.
6 or 7? What year was that?
Yeah, that was in 1959.
Okay. And then how early did you pick up art?
Oh, I think it was that I didn't speak any English, so the teacher just gave me some crayons.
Oh, yeah.
And put me in the back of the class. He doesn't know how to speak a word, so he just put me back there, and I started doodling. And then, they would give me like assignments, like to decorate the wall or something.
Yeah.
And I started out with that, and just something that art just gave me an escape. Mm-hmm. Because coming from a village where you had nobody there, we didn't have anything. Basically. So it just gave me, just like a direction and
sure.
And coming to the United States where I didn't know anything, living in an environment that was kind of terrifying, because here we have a village that it's healthy looking. You're out in the woods and you come to a concrete jungle.
Yeah.
And so art was an escape from that for me.
And you were in Connecticut, is that
Connecticut.
right?
We ended up in a ghetto there that was pretty intense. Grew up with that until I was 16 and was able to have a vehicle to get out of there.
Yeah. And from there, did you go to California? Is that right?
Not right away. I went to Rhode Island, traveled around.
Okay. And you were going to go to the Rhode Island Institute of Art.
Yeah, but couldn't afford it. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was the Rhode Island School of Design.
Okay.
I got accepted at that. But
yeah. And then when you moved out to California, what was out there? Why'd you go there?
I was just doing artwork, trying to be a printmaker,
life.
living the bohemian artistic life.
Yeah. You fell right back into that bohemian lifestyle here, which is pretty interesting.
I think the climbers all have that in them.
Yeah.
They're artists themselves, but
totally.
And bohemian on top of that. But
what brought you here to Kentucky?
Well, Kentucky was like I was in Rhode Island and I met Neville Pohl. I met him, and we were asked to take some artwork out west in a big semi truck.
Yeah.
And that we were paid to do this. And so we made a big trip out of it.
Yeah.
Went across country up northern California and came down to San Diego. But and that my life then started out there in the art world. That's where I really focused on it.
Yeah.
But art's always been part of my escape, kind of like climbers do climbing to escape some of their things or whatever. But it's a focus. You focus and you let your emotions out, whatever you have.
Yeah.
Put it on paper.
Yeah.
Or whatever. I did etching, so that was my thing.
Yeah, I've seen some. I saw one of your prints at Dario's house.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to have a Miguel in my house someday.
Someday.
So.
We can do that, definitely.
You should totally start making them again and selling them to
I still
climbers.
have the plates in my crawl space of my house. They're stashed in a box down there.
Yeah, you should do it. You would be in high demand in this community.
Really? Art to me is always... so I play that role of being an artist and loved it, But like we were talking earlier, art becomes like part of your ego, and you go to a party and say, "So what do you do?" Well, I'm an artist.
Yeah, yeah.
And that got to me once, and internally I felt uncomfortable with that. So one day, for some reason, I was doodling, and this doodle came out with this image that I said, wow. It just inspired me. I said, I'm everything. I'm just not an artist. And that's when I gave up doing art and moved away from California and came back east. And it was basically the drawing of this little cartoon character lifting up like a costume of an artist, and he's going in it. So he's...
Oh, yeah.
Can you imagine that image? Yep. So he's putting on that costume of an artist.
Right.
And realizing that you don't need a costume to be a person.
Right.
You just need to be yourself. It
was there all along. Yeah. Didn't need to have the outfit.
Yeah. So I threw that outfit out and I became who I am today. A pizza man.
I think you're a lot more than a pizza man.
But I mean, it was inspiring that you could do anything.
Yeah.
You could be anything. And so that little drawing, I still have it. I kept it. And that was the most inspiring drawing I've ever had out of all the artwork I've ever done.
Well, I think you've carried that on. I mean, when you came here and bought this place, it was just a little shack, basically.
Yeah, it was really. Yeah.
You know, when I first started climbing here 22 years ago, I remember it being just a little shack with, you know, and almost no people here.
Yeah, there was nobody here. It was,
you know?
But again, you just it's like any other piece of work. You start. And you stick with it. You know?
And just like your art teacher gave you crayons because you didn't know the language and you guys couldn't communicate, you didn't necessarily know the climber language back then.
No.
So you just had these crayons and you're like,
let's paint a picture.
Let's build this thing and learn how to talk to these people through that.
Yeah. That's a good way to look at it.
Yeah, I think that's super, super cool. Let's talk about, just so you know, the people who are around get to know what the history is here. Let's look at once you bought this place. It was called the Jotham Down Store.
Jotham Down Store,
right?
yeah. From some guy from Cincinnati had started that down here.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was an abandoned building. We just cleaned it up and started selling ice cream. I mean, that was the beginning of that. Because we didn't have any way of making money, and I was driving all the way to Winchester for work at a horse farm.
Right.
I was raising vegetables for these nice people, really.
Yeah.
And but so we were stuck out here, and we had to create something.
Yeah. And did it already have a pizza oven? Was that?
No, there was nothing there. It was a gift shop originally, and so we just started. Susan said, "Let's start with ice cream," and then after the ice cream went, the climbers started hanging out eating ice cream. The team from Cincinnati, all those guys.
All the old traddies.
All the old traddies, yeah. Keith Phelps and
Tom Souders. And
Tom
Jeff
Souders,
Koenig,
yeah. Awesome people. I mean, they were genuine,
great guys.
awesome people. It's hard to find people like that. But, and they wanted something to eat, and that's how we then said, okay, well, let's just, pizza's good.
Yeah.
And I've had a little background in dealing with pizza dough, and not so much pizza dough, but just bread making.
Bread, yeah.
In our village, we ground all the flour for all the village. So
your family did?
Our family did. So my grandparents were involved, and we had like a grits mill that my grandfather had built.
Oh, cool.
So we ground all the flour for the whole community. And
would the community come there?
Come there, and then we would negotiate, like, you give us so much flour for grinding the rest, and then we would also, bake bread, and then you could take it. My grandparents would take it to the city and sell it, and they sold whatever, cheese. They produced their own cheese and sold that. So I was around that as a baby, as a child.
Yeah. And you're kind of repeating that now on a larger scale. This is the community place.
Yeah,
this is where everybody comes.
Yeah, I only grew up around it for 7 years, but it was an interesting. It stayed with me. It's down deep somewhere, probably.
Yeah, and then when did you? It seems to me that for a long time it was still just that one little room.
Yeah. You mean for the
pizza place?
The pizza place, yeah, that little tiny space that we held up a pizza oven that cooked 3 with a stick.
Yep.
So we stuck it out the window.
Yep, totally.
That was crazy what we got away with back here then, with an outhouse, not a bathroom.
Yep.
It was crazy.
And there was, there weren't all these buildings that are here now, the pavilions and the shelters and. The parking lot was really small.
Yeah, and then
and the Love Shack was back there.
Yeah, the old Love Shack.
Yeah.
Porter. All those guys, we lived in it for a year and a half or so while we were building our cabin, and then all the climbers took it over until they got so dangerous because they were using the building for firewood to keep themselves warm in there. And it just got so dangerous because there was nothing structurally holding it up. Yeah. It was kind of terrifying.
Porter was just burning his own house down to stay warm.
So The Canadians were the ones that were doing that more, because all the Canadians came down after Porter put up, because they knew Porter.
Yep.
So he invited them all. There were 30 of them out here at one time, living in their vans, and then they started taking that thing apart. And one day I went in there and I saw just one wall just had little boards. I said, "This thing's gonna fall on you guys." So I put a big piece of plywood on the door and kept them out, but they still crawled in through the windows.
Yeah, for sure.
And then that winter, I said, "I'm gonna." I burned we had the fire department up, and
I think it was falling apart by the time that I was here.
He's showing up.
Like it was on
Ed Mack was living upstairs too. I don't know. With Porter.
Ed's still around.
He's still here.
Yeah.
He's quite a character.
Yeah. So when Porter came, it kind of started to explode shortly after. Like nothing like it is now, but
no.
Still
Yeah,
pretty big.
Well, he wrote that first.
The first little guide.
Well, no, before that, he wrote that article, Recognize the Jaws of the Red or something.
I remember
he had a shark.
that. Yep.
It's pretty cool, a shark. And Twinkie was like the big one back then.
Yeah.
It was like what is it, 12 something?
12A, yeah.
That was like, everybody had to come from there. It's like, yeah.
Yeah, no place else in the world really has that kind of climbing.
Oh, really?
It's pretty unique to hear. When did you start adding on?
Well, after Porter showed up, I mean, it's like within 2 years, it just started. People were showing up from Europe, and so it got built up. So we started building more shelters, and
you built the kitchen out, right?
Yeah, built an addition to the kitchen, and
I think one of the crazy things people don't realize is that the basement, beneath.
It was a crawl space.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, we kept our trash down there.
Yeah, I remember. And Porter dug it out, right?
No, it was me, Roger, and Kenton.
Oh, really?
Roger and Kenton.
Yeah.
One winter, we got down there. It was all sand. We dug all that by hand.
Wow.
We went down 4 feet of sand. It was amazing. We dug it all out one winter, and then. We asked Porter to come in and show us how to protect that, the structure.
Make it structural, yeah.
Yeah, the foundation, how to protect it. And he came in while he was going by climbing. He would stop in for an hour and give us advice on it. And that was pretty good.
Yeah, well, I think one of the hallmarks, in my opinion, of a good artist is that they're able to kind of ride on the front of whatever waves are happening, and they kind of create the, for lack of a better word, the image of what this new wave looks like, I think that's what artists do a lot of the times. And I think you were able to, even though you want to be humble about it and give, and Martin deserves credit for sure.
Yeah.
And so does Porter, does everyone who built it. But, but you were able to ride on the front of that wave and keep expanding for this community that was just exploding year after year after year. And you're still doing it. Every season I come back here, there's something new.
Yep.
And you've expanded to fill the needs that are about to happen.
Exactly.
I think that's super important. And it feels creative. It feels, you were on the front end of the first time I ever saw pizza that had more than just pepperoni, sausage, onions, and mushrooms was here.
Okay. Well, that was all inspired by climbers themselves. Don't give me any credit. Like corn on the pizza was a Krieg.
That was Sam.
Sam Krieg said, we got to have some corn on this pizza. Okay, sure, let's put it on there.
Yeah, and
I personally don't like it, but corn on the pizza.
Sure. So, did you ever get into climbing yourself? I know you...
A little bit with Martin and Keith. They would take me out. I did like roadside, all those little 7s and 8s, Arachnid was... I thought that was my favorite. That was fun.
Yeah.
But I never really took it up as didn't really inspire me that much, climbing.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed the art more side of things.
Yeah.
And they gave me the same thrill. But it was fun. I mean, I enjoyed that time of it, that I did the little bit of it and then moved on, It's like... like
Yeah.
anything else I've done with my life.
Yeah, and
I enjoy the
you're so
moment of it.
connected to the community here. What's this community give back to you if it's not climbing that you're super interested in?
Well, I just, climbers in general, the majority of them, they're not the typical everyday, even though they all go to college and they want to go to college and then graduate and have a job, but the ones that got into climbing, they have something more, a little spark beyond that. Mm-hmm. And they're looking for some adventure in their lives. And I've always felt that way about my life. So, I'm not a cookie cut thing,
Yeah.
I like to explore, and I think climbers have that in them. And that's what I think I enjoy about climbers. Is that adventure to be able to, create something out of nothing sometimes.
Totally.
Like, you have to have that to survive in this world. If you don't have that, then you're doomed.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think this space that you've created here, like I started climbing here when I was 19 or so, and it seems like when I think back, like a lot of my formative moments happened down here. And the time that I spent, reliving those moments and analyzing those moments, a lot of it happened sitting in your dining room or sleeping in your parking lot or whatever. So this place feels like I grew up here, and I think a lot of people go through that. Yeah.
I think that's what we provide here. It gives you an opportunity to take time out and to look at your life. I mean, because I did the same thing when I was in California traveling. I traveled a lot out there, and I had a lot of moments. I would go out to the desert by myself and camp out.
Yeah.
And look at everything with a different, without any influence around you, just by yourself. And that's really good to have. And this place kind of gives you that, like the kids can come here, young people, and work for us and take time out and save a little cash to go on a trip. And that gives them a year to go and explore that like I did. I mean, I do that, even though I didn't go to school after. But it's, it's good to take a little break, look at it, and go back into it, because you got to go back into it. There's no way you can escape it.
Yeah, it's going to happen.
No matter how
eventually.
you try, you got to go back into it. You got to be part of it. Otherwise, you won't be fulfilled if you're not part of it.
Yep. And you get to see those kids come back year after year. Like a lot of them stay here for several years, and work their summers. Even though summer might be the worst season to climb here, they're like, this place is home. This is where I go for the summer.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, every year there's more and more. And this is their little home for a short time, not permanently.
That's probably a good thing for your sanity.
Not permanently.
That you're not raising thousands of teenagers.
No, I don't want to.
But you know what? You've done a great job with the kids you do have. You know, Dario's amazing. Sarah's amazing. I don't know Mark nearly as well, but he seems like a cool kid every time I'm around him. In my mind, Mark's still 5. Yeah. So it's hard to see him now and be like, oh my God, how old am I?
Yeah, he just became 21.
Yeah, and you're a grandpa.
Yeah.
You got
3
some
children,
cool
grandchildren.
grandkids.
Yeah.
Yeah,
awesome.
How's that?
It's good. I mean, I enjoyed their space, their time with them, and I think the reason that is what's inspiring me to do art again. You could leave them, money and stuff, and they could burn that up in no time. But if you leave them some artwork, that's why I want to get back into it.
Yeah,
to leave them some kind of art they can put up in the wall, and they can remember you. After you're gone, whereas anything else that's just gone.
Yeah, well, you've got this legacy too, you know, that you've really, really fostered and built down here. And I remember reading in an article years ago that you said that you were talking about how your kids were all into rock climbing, and you said, "My son's a little too much into it. I wish he would run the business more." How's he doing now?
He's doing really good.
Yeah,
he's really
he's back here listening. So
Yeah, Dario's he's stepped up to the plate. He knows what he's doing. He's very creative like me.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think it just takes time, a little bit of I think it also my wife needs to give him more freedom to do it more.
Yeah.
Poor Susie.
Yeah.
She's not totally comfortable yet.
She's not comfortable letting go of the reins.
Go. Yeah, the reins.
That's tough to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's hard. How are you handling it?
Awesome.
You're just ready to hand them over.
Yeah.
You're like, Dario, take this thing. I don't want it.
I think so. I'm ready.
Well, I think you're in a good spot. You get to see all these kids you've essentially raised. They've all grown up under your roofs. And, and now you've got grandkids you need to enjoy. And
yeah, the
I think
little
that's
things that
good idea to hand it off.
Yeah. It's at a point that it's grown enough and it's kind of maintaining itself pretty well.
Yeah.
So it's really good. And the whole thing too is that Dario's always been, and Mark, we raised them with a spirit of, that we're all, we have like some merit, and all people have merit, and to treat everybody with that, with a certain, what's the word? Respect or something, that we all need to respect one another and stuff. And that's the way, it should be. I've raised them that way, and I think they do that.
Yeah, I think they do as well.
Yeah.
And, it's been pretty cool to watch Dario. So when I first started climbing here, he was pretty young.
Yeah.
And it's really fun to watch him become such a part of this community and a pillar in this community, really. I mean, everybody knows who he is. He's a stand-up guy in every situation, and everybody respects him.
Cool.
I don't think I'll ever hear a bad word about Dario, because I think he's just a super good guy, and everybody realizes that. And that's in no small part because of you. That's
right.
What you've done here and building this community was huge for him as a kid.
Yeah. Yeah, you have to. But one thing I've learned about all that too, in life there are two types of people. There are givers and there are takers, and you have to know who you want to hang out with too.
Oh yeah, no doubt.
That's so important because you could run yourself down. So it's got to be a balance.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to teach that into them.
Yeah. Well, that's really great.
That's one thing that has to be learned.
Yeah, good. Well,
this life.
before we wrap this up, what's your craziest standout Miguel's story? What do you remember happening around here that was the craziest thing you remember?
I don't. Oh, there've been probably a lot, but
other than the Spencer Victory fireballs. But.
Well, I think one. What was it for Thanksgiving, or was it maybe it was Halloween, our first Halloween, I think. I don't know if you heard this story. There was two drag queens showed up.
No.
Dressed in really hot clothes, and I really thought they were women. And they were underneath. You remember the old basketball court?
Yeah.
They were under there, and they were like, they wanted a party or something. So somebody told me, there's two ladies here, they want a party. And I said, well, what kind of party they're into? So I go over it and I said, what's going on here? What kind of party you're looking for? And they said, oh, we just want a party. And it says, we know Miguel really well, and he said we can hang out here and party and stuff. And I said, oh, that's cool. You know Miguel. And I could just let it go, and I just said, well, this place here, these climbers, they're not much into partying right now. They climb all day, they're tired, they're burnt out.
Yeah.
And they just go to bed. So, okay, and they just moved on. It was really funny. That was interesting.
That's
day.
hilarious. Well, there are rumors that you don't actually exist.
Oh, really? That's good.
Because you're not around during the day.
That's
I know.
good. Well, let's do it. Keep it up.
I've heard the rumors that Miguel's isn't actually a real person.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
that's true. I made that drawing up. With I don't have any hair anymore, any blonde hair anymore.
Awesome, man. Well, I appreciate you sitting down with me a ton,
cool.
And congrats on another successful
Well, I've always
season
enjoyed
here.
You, Chris. Thank you for
I'll be back.
This. I've always enjoyed hanging out with you, and you've always been a motivation to me, especially with your artwork too. So.
Oh, thanks, man. Yeah, thanks for sitting down with me. I'm gonna have a Miguel on my walls eventually. So
we will. I'll
those
definitely.
Things going again.
I'm just, I have plenty. I need to get those plates out and print some, a small edition or something and pass on some to you. I will. I'll definitely do that too.
Yeah, I would love it.
I like to
maybe once we get a house built in Wyoming, once we're officially moved, we'll maybe I'll see if I can get you to carve something for me. And
that would be reasonable. Yeah, I can do that.
Yeah.
You just have to tell me what you want.
Yeah, I would love to buy carving. So
okay.
Awesome. Thanks, Miguel. I really appreciate it.
Okay.
Does your partner suffer from try-it-again syndrome? Or one-hangitis? Or even worse, delusional performance disorder? Well, there really isn't a cure for DPD, except for a good smackdown. But it does probably mean that you've been belaying them for hours and hours on end, and are now suffering from BNP, or belaying neck pain. A stiffness in the cervical spine just below the occipital region of your thick skull. But now there's a cure for BNP resulting from DPD. Ask your doctor about belay specs. And when he doesn't know what the hell you're talking about, just smile and tuck that prescription for opiates away for your next overseas plane flight. But then ask several strangers about belay specs. Ask that cute barista at the coffee shop on the corner about belay specs. In fact, ask everyone you know about belay specs. Keep talking about belay specs until nobody wants to climb with you anyway. Problem solved. But if that doesn't work, then go to belayspecs.com and get yourself a pair. And don't forget to enter Enormocast at checkout for a discount and to help out the podcast. Side effects may include people thinking you're staring at them when you're not, old trad climbers rolling their eyes, people putting them on for the first time and saying, ooh, that's trippy, people insisting they don't like those weird glasses even though they've never even tried them. If you feel drowsy, nauseous, or rumbling in your stomach, horny, confused, or have strange, vivid dreams, this probably has nothing to do with belay specs. It is more likely from that bug you picked up in that backpacker's hostel in Rio after 5 too many caipirinhas. Belayspecs.com. Say adios to belayer neck pain.
Man, that sucks.
Oh, I know. All right.
That's what you get for helping people.
Well, your dad, you don't have a choice about that.
Man, so I just want to get your perspective. Like, as you know, when I first started climbing here, that was 22 years ago. How old are you now?
I'm about to be 33.
So you were like an 11-year-old at the time.
I had a sick bowl cut.
You did have a sick bowl cut. That's awesome. What was this place like for you as an 11-year-old, or as a, even younger, because Porter and Snide and all those guys were around before I got here?
I guess it was like I was homeschooled, so I was here a lot, and so I spent a lot of time just hanging around them on rest days for them. So I guess for me it was just like having a playground of extremely old friends.
Extremely old and nutty friends.
Yeah, and crazy. Which I think in turn made me feel pretty comfortable around most people because they're an odd crew,
Yeah, I think, if you're homeschooled and, especially in a community like this where it's backwoods Kentucky, basically, that could lead to not being very social, not understanding how to move through a community. Mm-hmm. But those guys kind of took you under their wings, if I remember right.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
When I first started coming down here, you were like the cool, popular kid. Everybody was psyched when you were around, you know? So having all those friends from all these different places all the time, I think I just told your dad, I think you've become this really important part of the worldwide climbing community, really. Everybody knows you and everybody respects you, and I think that's, partially due to that upbringing here.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, I don't know. I feel very fortunate because, like you said, like even when I went to regular school and like kind of got out of my climbing bubble, then I got to feel the side of like no one knows you. I was not the cool kid.
Right.
But no, I feel fortunate because I think that I was very cultured for living in a very uncultured area.
Yeah.
And that's, I mean, I guess that's contributed to, when my dad started in this whole thing, but I was lucky.
Yeah.
Lucky is the best way to put it, I guess.
Yeah. And I've watched you gradually kind of start to take the reins of the business and, continue this thing that your dad's been doing. And I admire that and I have admired this for years, that he and you and everybody here kind of grows it with the community. Like you guys seem like you're right on the front edge of knowing what the community needs and then providing that before we even know we need it.
Right.
And I think it's cool that you're taking that over and, and continuing to grow it.
Yeah. I mean, I think if you have I think it's easier for us maybe, and I don't know if we notice it on purpose because we're just so in deep in like the climbing community and dealing with the people every day that like the needs are not necessarily like, I always talk to people and they're like, so how did you plan this out? Or how did how did this come about? And I don't think many of our plans come about that way. It's more like it becomes a necessity. And then we're like, well, this is what needs to be done next, which is kind of like a never ending spiral tunnel because there's always something next.
Yeah, sure.
But,
and this place just keeps exploding.
Yeah. So, but I mean, now it's come to a point where it's like, now we're just kind of like, whoa,
yeah,
this place is crazy. But who knows? I mean, I think my dad's always assumes sometimes that maybe the need is not there, but we'll still provide it. But then every time we assume that, the need is filled. So it's kind of like, we're always kind of like surprised. And people are like, why are you surprised? We're like, I don't know. Maybe we're too humble or I don't know what the deal is.
I think you are. I think both you and your dad are like humble almost to a fault. Like,
yeah. Sometimes I think we should
like
be.
You both want to give credit elsewhere and not take credit. And man, I think what you guys do here is a super special, super important thing. I mean, Miguel's, and I know you've heard this term that it's been called the Camp 4 of the East.
Right.
And I've spent a little bit of time in Camp 4, and
Camp 4 sucks.
At this point, I would argue that Camp 4 isn't even quite the Miguels of the West.
Yeah.
Like,
Camp 4.
This place is way cooler.
I know I grew up always hearing about Camp 4 from climbers and being like, yeah, this place is. And then when I finally went to Camp 4, and I was like, sneaking in Russ Clune to sleep in a tent with me so he wouldn't get kicked out. I was like, this is not, Miguel's is not the Camp 4 of the South.
Yeah, it's just, the history is out there, and those guys, romanticized that history and wrote about it.
Yeah.
And so it's become this larger than life thing. But Miguel's really is a life-size large thing. Like it's real. It's here. It doesn't need the romanticizing because it's true.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, I mean, I think, I just think maybe why it's come to that. I mean, I know my dad doesn't like to take credit for it, but I think that they believed in, I guess you could call it the outdoor industry, maybe not just the outdoor industry in general, way before it actually really existed.
Yeah.
And by believing it, like, it just gives you a step up because you're the person that's trying, you just have a step up on everyone, not because you planned it or did some diagram like most business people would do.
Yeah.
You just like are there and you believe and you stick it out long enough that eventually it pays off.
Yeah, that's huge.
And people come to us a lot and they're like, so, what's the secret? And it's like, honestly, you just have to like lose money for like 20 years and live really poor. And then eventually it pays off.
Yeah. Just keep believing in yourself, even when it's tough.
Yeah.
Even when there are like 12 dirty climbers are your only customers.
Yeah, exactly. And the wait is like 2 hours for a pizza. And you're just like, but no one cared, it's just, yeah, because, yeah, I know people don't realize like when we were kids, how poor we really were,
Yeah.
But,
was there a point as like a young adult when you were like, there's no way I'm taking this business over?
Yeah. I mean, when I went to when I left to go to college, I had no desire to do it. I wanted to go to school, and actually I wanted to go into business, but I wanted to I don't know. I think at that time I didn't even think of Miguel's as a business,
right?
Because it had not really blossomed into what it is now. So, and then I went to business school, and then I started learning what they were teaching in business school, and it was like this cutthroat, how to put your neighbor out of business attitude. And I was and I grew up in an area where we were literally the only business, and that we never had to deal with that. It was just everyone was just kind of easygoing, and I was really turned off by it. And then it almost drew me back to this business because I was like, that's the side of the business I like this family kind of oriented, low cutthroat attitude, it's just it turned me off.
Yeah. And you've now, you've got Cedar, your daughter, you're married, and Emily's amazing. And, your family is here. You guys, you moved down here to the same area and are continuing this business. And, so you must have turned that corner and feel really good about this place now. Yeah.
I mean, it's definitely, I wouldn't go anywhere else.
Yeah.
And it's awesome. My wife, she loves climbing, and it's perfect for us. And
there was a while there where I wondered if you would continue climbing.
Yeah.
I was curious about how you saw it being pretty much the only true local down here.
Yeah.
And no other locals here climb.
Right.
I thought, I wonder if Dario will keep climbing, but it seems like it's just gotten stronger over the years.
Yeah, I think that I think when any kid, if you grow up with something, and I grew up around everyone being like, yeah, you need to be a rock climber, you need to go crush, you kind of get overwhelmed by it.
Yeah.
And then now that I'm back here and I'm climbing a lot again, now it really is a enjoyment for me and a freedom that I look forward to every day. And I mean, I don't know if I'd want to live in Slade, Kentucky if I wasn't a rock climber.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think, I can see that at the crag. You're definitely enjoying it.
Yeah.
Emily's enjoying it. And Cedar's just the coolest kid to have around. She's at the crag. She comes up with the best names for people, which I thought I was good at, but she's way better. So. But yeah, man, I'm super stoked that you're taking this over and continuing this thing, and that you're such an important part of this community. Because I've decided that my life needs to be lived inside this community, and I'm stoked to be able to be a part of it with you.
Yeah, me too, man. Yeah, it's hopefully it continues. That's my hope. I hope this place just stays good like it is right now till I die, at least.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to go any other way, man. Yeah. So you guys have done something special here. So thanks for taking a few minutes. I know Cedar's up with Grandma and Grandpa now. So
I got some freedom.
I'll let you have that.
All right, thanks, Chris.
Yeah, thanks, man.
All right, folks, thanks for listening. Thanks to Kris Hampton for doing that. It was a nice angle because he knows those guys. I don't know if Miguel would have opened up to me like he did to Kris. So we get that going for us. And I want you all to give thanks by checking out powercompanyclimbing.com, Kris's website, training website, as well as a blog and the podcast. Please go have a look at that. And also click over to theenormocast.com. Check that out. Click on the Help Out tab, of course, to help out the podcast. Look at what you can do there, including giving us a rating on iTunes. That helps somehow, I've been told. And I believe everything I'm told, especially on the internet. Okay, we are going into the light, ladies and gentlemen, at least here in the Northern Hemisphere. The light is coming upon us, not away from us. That is a beautiful thing. So keep climbing, keep hanging on out there, and keep checking your knots.
Trip on the Sunset Strip. Give me that dip, give me that dip. Give me that tip, give me that tip. Home on an acid trip on the Sunset Strip. Give me that tip, give me that tip. Give me that tip, give me that tip. Give me that tip, give me that tip. Give me that tip. Why you putting beans on my pizza? Why you putting beans on my pizza, yeah? Why you gonna kill the mosquito? Why you gonna kill the mosquito?